If you can hear me, it does sound fine today. I could tell immediately the other day.
And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fire on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
Oh,
that.
There we
go.
go.
Greetings and a good Monday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app. You can download that for free into your phone, watch and listen to our program daily. You can go back and watch and listen if you've missed it. Of course, you have access to our season ticket suite and much, much more. You can also head to jbandgoldwatershow.com. If you are watching to the right of the screen, that is Darren, or that is me. To the left of the screen, that is Darren Goldwater. We're across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater. 843-321-8893 is our phone number. It is our text line, and it is open and available for you to send a message our way. And we'll put it into the program here. We're here until 2 o'clock this afternoon. And as we always are, Darren, jam-packed, a full weekend of college hoops, March Madness, the men, the women started. We've got more of that getting ready to get underway here in just a little bit. We'll update you on scores throughout the afternoon. We've got Wes Mitchell on spring practice at 12:30. We've got Mike Uva on the Gamecock ladies. And what's the future of Frank Martin? Still no word there at 1 o'clock today. We've got FCS, we've got Deshaun Watson, and so much more to get to this afternoon. So it's going to be a jam-packed day. Of course, college baseball. We'll talk about a lot of that in just a little bit as well. But first and foremost, we were off on Friday. Boss Button Day, we called it. And I spent the weekend in the mountains and Boss Button Day. You spent, it looked like, the large majority of your weekend at the Dog and Duck. What's up, man?
Yeah. I was over there a little bit over the weekend because this is strange. The whole Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday thing is completely throwing me off. I mean,
Me too.
Even you wake up this morning, you're like, wait a second. I got games at noon and all the way through the night again.
Right.
But that's true. That's actually what's happening. So it's throwing me off a little bit. Today is a good day to be back at work, though, because I need a little recharge. I'm good to be back. Even though I had Illinois winning, I like the Loyola story. Loyola is, in fact, my resume tape for college basketball anyway, for the last time they went to the Final Four. So I can pull for them. I like them, even though they busted my bracket.
The Illinois loss, I don't want to say that it was shocking. I don't want to say that I was totally shocked. We have seen 15-2s in the past. Just a few years ago, we saw 16-1 when Virginia went down. I mean, obviously, these things happen. But I felt like this year with this bracket, if there were two teams that you could count on getting to the Final Four, if you could count on anybody, it was Gonzaga and Illinois. That's what was shocking to me, is that of all of them, I was like, okay, these two, we can probably count on them, not the Illini.
Well, no, what happened in that game, I didn't expect it going in, but you could see it early, and it never changed. There was a run by Illinois late in the first half, early in the second. Outside of that, it never changed. Loyola dominated that game from start to finish. They were the poised team. They were the more poised team. They were the team that was in their half-court set, constantly moving, constantly using 25 to 30 seconds of the shot clock, and then getting a good shot at the back end of that. And Illinois was trying to play their pace, and it wasn't working against what Loyola was doing. On either side of the ball for Loyola, Illinois could not establish controlling the pace, and it killed them because at the end they had no chance of coming back because Loyola was taking 30 seconds every time they had the ball and then getting a good shot.
Obviously, Loyola, Darren, brought their dancing shoes back, or their Cinderella slippers, whatever you want to call them. But is that the real Cinderella? Isn't Oral Roberts at this point in time the true Cinderella of the tournament?
Yeah, they're the 15, and we've already seen Loyola do this, right? I mean, Gonzaga's Cinderella story, it wore off, even though they could never finish the deal. They're not considered Cinderella anymore, even granted they're a number one seed, but it wears off after a while. We've seen Loyola go to the Final Four. We know the Sister Jean story. It was Cameron Krutwig 4 years ago in the Final Four, so it's still partly the same cast. So are they a Cinderella? By the definition, probably not. Are they a great story? Yeah, absolutely, because this team can go farther. They're not done.
No, this team absolutely can be in the Final Four. I mean, they've done it, and there's guys around who've done it. That's the thing. It's not like the program has just done it. There's guys there who've been a part of it. They get it. Some teams figure it out this time of year. They know what it feels like, and so yeah, I mean, I would still think that in some minds that they're Cinderella. In my mind, there's a part of me that wants to say that they are, and they might. Here's what I'll say: if they continue to advance, they'll be Cinderella. But right now, they're battling for that title with some of the other ones out there, like Oral Roberts. We'll see what Abilene Christian can do today at 5:15. Teams like that you just didn't really expect to maybe be talking about when it came to the Sweet 16 or even further. So we'll have to see how this all gets decided, and then I think that will tell us who the true Cinderella is.
That's a fair point, because again, if Abilene Christian wins today, then they're right in there with Oral Roberts, and you're talking about those two as the Cinderellas. Loyola feels like more of a concrete, solid foundation of a team. Oral Roberts, Abilene Christian feels like, and maybe this changes, feels like the aberration here a little bit. This, oh man, what a story, but that's going to end. I think for Loyola, it's more of, wow, what a story. How far is this thing going to go? Let's see. So it's a different perspective.
And I think it's also like maybe we need to follow Loyola a little bit more throughout the college basketball season, because they're not going away.
No, they were super good this year too. I mean, there were a lot of folks who were on the bandwagon of their seed is too low. The Missouri Valley was a great league. Them and Drake battled it out all the way through.
Yep.
They're a good team.
Did they split that season series? Didn't they split that with Drake?
I'm not sure if they split the season series or not, but they did win the Valley tournament.
Well, I know they won I thought earlier in the year they had the double dip, basically, the back-to-back. I'm pretty sure they won one and lost one.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. That's exactly, and then it benefited both of them because they split that season series. Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's been a hell of a tournament. I mean, it's been and honestly, I mean, I don't know that I didn't expect anything less. I don't think you did. I think the majority of people who have really followed along as much as they could with college basketball and knowing the discrepancies of the season, some teams playing more games than others, some teams struggling because of COVID, but if they could get guys back at the right time, they could kind of get going at the right time of the year. Some dudes, maybe looked a little better than maybe they were simply for whatever reason. I mean, it was just we knew it was going to be strange. And then when we got into the tournament, it was like this thing has a better chance than most years, if not all, to be really wacky, because I don't know that the majority of seeds were going to be consistent with the program. And maybe we're seeing that.
Well, already it has been, to use your word, like wacky. The first the first round was by seeds in terms of the low seeds advancing, the most that we've ever seen, 13 and below. So when you're talking about a crazy March, by the numbers, it says that. It says it's been as crazy, if not more so, than any other March before. Let's see how today plays out. It's just been a ton of fun. Going back to even the play-in games or the first round, whatever you want to call them, first four, even those games were spectacularly good. So it hasn't just been, oh, these seeds are winning and we've got Cinderellas and we've got stories, but we've got games coming down to the wire, and we've got tactics and coaching decisions, and it's just been it's been draining but awesome to watch. And I need more sleep.
Speaking of awesome to watch, it's starting right now. I hope those of you that are watching us will continue to do so. Maybe have split screen or a TV and a computer going or whatever you want to do. But 7th seeded Oregon and 2nd seeded Iowa are tipping off as we speak on CBS. Iowa is a small favorite now, one about 5 points. You've got Oklahoma and Gonzaga coming up at 2:40 this afternoon in the second round of the West. Oklahoma, of course, the 8th seed. We all know about undefeated Gonzaga. At 5:15 today, just before supper time, there's that 14-11 matchup, UCLA and Abilene Christian, 5:15 on TBS. At 6:10 this evening, 13th seeded Ohio. Debbie Antonelli had their upset in the first round. They've got 5th seeded Creighton, a team I think a lot of folks, now that they're here in the second round, are looking at Creighton saying, we kind of told you throughout the year they're pretty good, and they are. So you got that 13-5 on TNT at 6:10. At 7:10 tonight, this is where I'll have my eyes because of what Mike Morgan said on our program last week. When we asked him which SEC team can go furthest, he said this one, 8th seeded LSU. Now, we know what Arkansas has done. We know what Alabama might be doing. They got to play Maryland tonight at 8:45 on TNT. But 8th seeded LSU gets top seeded Michigan at 7:10 on CBS tonight, Darren. And I think, I know that the Southern Cal Kansas game, late tip, 9:40, people are excited about that. People are excited to see Alabama. They're excited to see all these games. But if there's another 1 seed that can go down, it might be this evening between the Wolverines and the Bayou Bengals.
Here's what scares me about it. And really, it's one of the only things that scares me about it. How popular of an upset pick LSU has become. Right. That's what scares me most about this, because LSU can score with anybody. Mike Morgan has pointed that out many times. They defend when they want to defend, and I think that'll be a trend worth watching throughout the game. And is it actually going to be Michigan's time? They can score with them, but they're a little bit shorthanded. Is it going to catch up with Michigan? I like LSU in the game, but again, the fact that a lot of people are now jumping on this, it gives me a little bit of cause for concern.
It does, and I don't disagree with you. I would say, contrary, or to play devil's advocate, or just to give the other half, I think the reason that a lot of people are picking up on this trend is because even though LSU lost some games this year, I think they've got 9 losses right now, 8 or 9. They're really talented, and if they play really well together, they can go pretty much as far as they want to. But they've had some ebbs and flows, and when they don't play defense, they get beat. They need to play defense because they will run up and down the floor, and when they get hot, nobody can stop them. But so is Michigan. So can Michigan. If they put it all together, they can win the whole thing. So I really like that one. And I tell you what, it's kind of the right where it should be at 4 or 5, Colorado and Florida State tonight. I didn't have Colorado actually advancing here. I thought Georgetown would pull an upset, and they got shellacked. Colorado's really good, and I didn't pay much attention to them this year, but the Buffs are really good.
Rafael Esparza on Thursday, he hammered so many things correctly. One of them was that he was all over more people taking Georgetown so that he would get better lines for Colorado, thinking Colorado would blow them out of the water. He also cautioned against the Big Ten, and that certainly played out. curious to see how Iowa plays here. They are not at full strength. Does it catch up to them against the Pac-12 that's still undefeated? How in the world is that happening? I don't think a lot of people saw that happening at all.
Right.
But yeah, Colorado was another one of those upset picks that then started to scare me because everybody was on it. I didn't jump on the upset pick of Villanova losing to Winthrop. I just didn't see that happening and took a lot of flack for it, but it didn't happen.
No, I didn't pick them either.
Yeah, so I'm okay with that.
Matter of fact, I got both of our Palmetto State teams right. I thought that both Clemson and Winthrop would lose, and they did.
Me too.
And on the Clemson thing, and then we need to kind of get to some of the rest of the weekend here in a little bit before Wes Mitchell joins us at 12:30. But on the Clemson thing, you know, I didn't pay a whole heck of a lot of attention this weekend to social media simply because I was in the mountains and I didn't want to. But as I've caught up over the last, I'd say 24 hours or so, that there is once again unnecessary heat on Brad Brownell. I mean, it's ridiculous. Rutgers is a pretty good team.
Very.
And maybe they were seated a little bit low. Again, I don't know, but I don't know what Clemson turned into some basketball powerhouse that making the tournament 2 out of every 3 or 4 years is all of a sudden a bad thing for Brad Brownell. I think that this guy absolutely is the head coach at Clemson. And I know there's some people frustrated by their early exit from the dance, but give me a break. They played an exceptional year. They went one and done, but there's a lot of promise in the future of this program. I think it's ridiculous to hear that.
It's a hard conundrum for me with Clemson because the style of play is not a sexy, exciting style of play. When they win, they're shutting you down defensively, which is why I thought the Rutgers matchup, and I said this to some of my Clemson friends when the bracket was released, like immediately, I said, I don't like the matchup. Rutgers can bang with you, and I didn't like that. But just from a Clemson standpoint, they're not going to wow you. So when they struggle and they go through their lulls, it's up, here we go again. They typically have good starts, or at least they have many times, and then some lulls. This year, you can pass that lull off because of their COVID pause, because they eventually did bounce back from it. But when you look at this team, you go to the ACC tournament, this is as good as Clemson's been in a long time, and as down as the ACC's been in a long time. Clemson couldn't capitalize on that. They couldn't capitalize in the first round. I'm not saying Brownell should go because that's crazy. He was in the Sweet 16 just a couple of years ago. He's got him back in the tournament. We're sitting here talking about Frank Martin unable to make the tournament. So
right.
we can't sit here and say he should go. But I understand the fans in a basketball league saying, wait a second, we're not getting up and down the floor. We're not scoring 70, 80 points. When we win, we score 50, 60. It gets a little old. It feels like it's been happening this way for a long time, and you're underachieving a lot, even though when you look at the numbers, it says, well, wait, twice in the NCAA in 4 years and a Sweet 16 trip.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? Isn't that all anybody cares about is are you dancing or not?
Right.
Who cares how you got there as long as you got there? But to your point, you've got a point. That's that shouldn't be lost in the conversation. And is as time goes on over the next couple of years, if teams adjust to that, and that's what beats Clemson because they can't score.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, we got a case to be made, but if it continues to work out, Brad Brownell should be there as long as he wants to be there, basically.
If he's switch seats right now with Clemson. You want to go to the tournament 2 out of every 4 years? Would you sign up right now for a coach who would take the Gamecocks 2 out of every 4 years?
No question. Yeah. Everybody would. Everybody should, especially in this state. Absolutely.
And that's that's not the whole Brad Brownell timeline, but that is where we are right now, the last 4 years.
Exactly. I mean, if you compare that to Frank Martin, I mean, everybody's saying Frank is 1-9. Well, let's be realistic. Nobody gives a crap about the 1-9. They care about what has he done since the Final Four. That's what they care about. What has Brad Brownell done since they took him to the Sweet 16? Well, 2 years later, they're back in the dance.
That's right.
Yeah, they might have not stuck around very long, but they were there in the COVID year when they had players out just like everybody. They had pauses just like everybody. They were there.
Yep.
So, I give him credit. All right, we do have hoops underway. We'll monitor that. The women's tournament is underway as well. North Carolina and Alabama right now are on the floor on the women's side of things. Tomorrow, it'll be South Carolina. Dawn Staley notched her 500th career victory yesterday. And the Cocks and the Beavers, yeah, I heard it. They'll be on the floor tomorrow night at 7 o'clock on ESPN from the Alamo Dome. and San Antonio, where South Carolina will look for their 24th win of the season. Another trip to the Sweet 16 under Dawn Staley, Darren. And again, now she's got win number 500 under her belt in remarkable time. And South Carolina, I know they struggled a little bit here and there yesterday, but once they put it together, they went on that run. That's what they do. When they get on the run and they take control of the game, it's over. And they did it. Much more different and much more difficult test tomorrow. By the way, they have played Oregon State twice under Dawn Staley, 1-1 in those contests.
Okay. I said it before the tournament. I'm not backing off it. They can go through their lulls. They can have their roller coaster for another couple of games. Then it gets real. That when you start walking into that Maryland game, it's going to get real. So this shouldn't be much of an issue. We'll monitor, but it shouldn't be much of an issue until they get down to 8 teams left.
And more on that with Mike Uva ahead at 1:00. Wes Mitchell coming up in about 10 minutes here. He'll give us an update on spring practice. Do want to slide to the Diamond and let you know what happened this weekend in baseball in our state. Charleston Southern did win a series against Gardner-Webb. They are now 7-6, but how about this? 7-3. All of their wins have come in the Big South. They are tied with USC Upstate for first place in the league. They've got Winthrop coming up tomorrow night and then at PC. So Mark McMillan's got them going over in North Charleston. College of Charleston, of course, didn't play this weekend. They're still dealing with COVID issues in the Cougars locker room. We'll see what that means moving forward. The college is set to play at Coastal Carolina tomorrow. I have not seen any word about that game playing or not playing, Darren. So if you could keep your eyes peeled for that, maybe we can get an update on it at some point in time today. They've got Wilmington this weekend. The Citadel now 8-9 overall, 1-2 in the SoCon. They did beat Wofford Friday, but fell Saturday and Sunday, in that double dip on Saturday to the Terriers. One of them was a 1-run loss, 5-4. But the Citadel tomorrow will head to South Carolina and try to revenge the loss against the Gamecocks just a couple of weeks ago down here at the Joe. More on Carolina in just a second. Clemson this weekend takes 2 of 3 from a top 25 Virginia Tech team. That's really good for Monty Lee's squad. Now 8-9 overall, 3-6 in the ACC, and they'll head to North Augusta, South Carolina tomorrow night to take on Georgia Southern. We'll see if that trend can continue for Monty and the Tigers. Coastal Carolina now 12-6. They took 2 of 3 from West Virginia in Morgantown this weekend, and as I mentioned, they're scheduled to host the College tomorrow. And then they'll take the trip to Lafayette this weekend to play the Louisiana Raging Cajun. And then there is South Carolina. Gamecocks now 12-6, 1-2 in the SEC. And they finally got a win yesterday, 6-5 over Vanderbilt. A come from behind win in Nashville, in which Mark Kingston was ejected from the ball game. He did say after the game, hey, look, we were right there late in it in games 1 and 2 against the second-ranked team, and now the top-ranked team in college baseball, according to D1 Baseball. They just couldn't get anything going. The talk of the country this weekend in college baseball was the Saturday game in which Jack Leiter threw about 13 pitches an inning, a complete game, but most importantly, a 16-strikeout no-hitter against the Gamecocks, which was the best pitching performance I have in my life ever seen in college baseball. He walked the leadoff guy, and then after that, he did everything perfect the rest of the day. I mean, it was, if you're Carolina, you look at it and you say, well, that's kind of embarrassing, but you look at the other side of it out of respect for the game of baseball, and it's remarkable. And then, by the way, they bounced back and won yesterday after being no hit on Saturday. So there's a lot to unpack in that series.
Not only no hit on Saturday, bouncing back and winning, but coming from behind and winning after you also had it shoved up against you when Rocker was throwing. I mean, what I liked most about it, and to be honest, I was watching basketball all day. I did not watch that game or that series, but I did like the side-by-side comparison of Jack Leiter's final out and Al Leiter's final out in his no-hitter. Yeah. And the similarity is not even a strong enough word. It was almost identical between father and son and team reaction final out of a no-hitter. It was wild. It was fun to watch. Genes are real. the father-son genes, they exist.
That kid, I when I was watching him in the mountains with one of my older roommates at Carolina, Nick Godwin, who pitched in the SEC. Yep. And we were talking about both these guys, Rocker and Leiter. We saw both of them pitch this weekend against Carolina. And I looked at him. I said, I'll be honest with you. If you ask me who would I take, I'd take Leiter. I like Leiter over Rocker. He's clean. He's crisp. He's fluid. Mechanically, he's perfect. And he said, I agree. Rocker is going to be around a long time. He's got a couple of things to clean up, but they're both ready to pitch in the big leagues today. They can pitch in the big leagues right now. No question about it. And that performance, I put it number one. I've never seen a better performance than that ever in my lifetime in college baseball. Never. That was unbelievable.
I've seen a couple breakdowns between the two of them, and it's trending more in that direction of Leiter. And it's because exactly of what you said. It's just a little bit tighter, cleaner delivery, something that can be duplicated and replicated time and time again, that isn't putting as much stress on the arm or any part of the body. Rocker can be a little violent when he throws, but that tends to be, I guess, the feeling right now is that Leiter is, like you said, they're both ready to go right now, but Leiter's probably the higher of the two picks.
I'd take him right now. There's no question about that. You've got on the screen about Brett Carey. He was amazing. I was listening to the pregame show yesterday on the way home, and Derek Scott hit the nail on the head. He asked a wonderful question to Mark Kingston, and it played out exactly like that. He said, you haven't had a chance to get Brett Carey in there because you haven't had a lead. Will he come in earlier today if necessary? And the answer was, yep. He's a unique guy. He's certainly a closer, but he can pitch 4 or 5 innings if we need him to, and he almost threw 6 yesterday in relief of Julian Bosnick, who started off okay, but just couldn't keep it going. Brett Carey gave him a chance to win. Of course, the bats woke up. They did win. They manufactured some runs late, but I'll say this. That game changed when Mark Kingston got thrown out of the ball game. And Carolina, they had already started a comeback. I don't know if you have seen it, and I'm not sure if you have seen it, if you listen to what Mark was saying to the umpire, because you could hear it. The camera mics in Vanderbilt, that dump of a ballpark, they're right on top of you. And Kingston, the plate umpire yelled at somebody in the Gamecocks dugout, and Kingston didn't like that. And he went out and said, that's my team, and if you've got something to say to my team, you say it to me. And that right there was a moment, Darren, if you've ever coached baseball, it doesn't always work out this way, but sometimes when your team is struggling and they just need a little pick-me-up, you don't want to manufacture getting thrown out of a ball game because that can look a little cheesy. But if there's a moment where you can capitalize on it and it fits right into that moment, sometimes you do it. Sometimes it's smart coaching. Sometimes it's kind of a last resort move. But there was an opportunity there for Mark to come out and say what he needed to say. And I know that they had been built up frustration from the whole weekend because there wasn't, once again, behind the plate, it wasn't very consistent. A lot of low strikes and things like that. It wasn't an excuse. Don't get me wrong. It was just kind of an awkward strike zone for both teams.
Right.
And I think that Mark and Tim Corbin were both very frustrated by that. And then you had a perfect opportunity to go out there, defend your club, and they see it. They know you're defending them. And sometimes it just adds a little bit to it. Carolina goes out, scores a couple more runs. They win the game. I thought it was a brilliant move by Mark. If you asked him, did you intentionally mean to be thrown out? He'll probably say no. But deep down, if you've been around the game for a while, you probably understand. Mark looked at that as an opportunity to say, I'm going to get my guys going here. He might not want to throw me out, but I'm going to say something that makes him do it. And he did. He took a hike, and Carolina took the victory.
So in baseball, right, he may have said, no, I didn't intend to get tossed, but he probably would be honest in a off mic conversation.
No question.
About, did I mean to get tossed? Well, I was looking for an opportunity to go do something, right? Was it going to end up in me getting tossed? Okay, we'll see. But I was looking for my opportunity to fire up my guys. And that's something that was necessary. That happens in baseball at hopefully not at the little league, but at most decent levels, that happens when your guys are slumping and you need a little pick me up. It's the manager, it's the head coach that can fire you up, as long as it's not just some crazy thing and he just throws a rant to throw a rant.
Well, that's exactly right. There's a difference of being thrown out because you're arguing a call and then being thrown out because you're defending your guys.
Yeah.
It becomes personal with your team when they know you're out there going toe-to-toe with somebody because you have their backs. balls and strikes, safe and out calls, things like that. Getting thrown out for stuff like that is kind of a thing of the past anymore. Not necessarily in the big leagues, but at the collegiate level. But defending your guys being tossed from a game for that is personal. And guys, your team takes that personal. They get it. They feel it. And I thought it was a brilliant move. I'm not going to call it calculated, but
well timed.
Yeah, very well timed. And he had a great opportunity there. If I heard correctly too, it sounded like the Vanderbilt first base coach had also said something, not to Carolina necessarily, to his guy. And it sounded like Mark was like, I think you're confused. He was talking. But when whoever it was, when he pointed whatever it was out, that's when Mark kind of twisted his words, and he looked at him and said, "You going to put that in your report? Is that what you're going to put in your report?" And the guy had no answer for him. He just said, "Get out of here."
Yeah.
And he said, "No problem, but I'm going to tell you how I feel before I leave." And that's exactly what he did. Carolina wins. That is a huge win for them moving forward. Huge, because they've got the Citadel, and then you got 5th-ranked Florida coming to town this weekend, an opportunity to win that first SEC series of the year. And we'll see if they can get it done. All right, we've got to get to a break. When we return, Wes Mitchell, he has been meeting with some of the players this morning. Gamecocks practice for the first time this weekend. He's going to give us an update from South Carolina spring practice right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
Peace and love at Stokes Speed Up.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. Whatever you got planned this week, cancel it. 72 new Volkswagens will be sold in the next 72 hours at whatever price it takes. I repeat, 72 new Volkswagens will be sold in the next 72 hours. To the first 72 car buyers interested in saving up to $6,000 on a new Volkswagen for 3 days only. Every new Volkswagen and pre-owned vehicle at our bottom line price. Direct to the public, regardless of profit. Qualified purchases with interest-free financing for 60 months, and all trade-ins will be accepted. Interested parties should arrive early for best selection. You will not find a lower price anywhere in the country. 72-hour Volkswagen clearance, savings up to $6,000, 3 days only at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes Speed Up.
$16.66 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with 0 down. Plus tax tag includes $499.50 administration fee subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at McFadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about McFadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
Guys, spring is finally in the air. You know what that means? Basketball in its home stretch. March Madness promotion at Dog and Ducks, 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. From now until the end of the tournament, $5 Sweetwater pints. That's right. Every Sweetwater, just $5 at Dog and Duck, Park West, Bell Hall, and their Clements Ferry location. Plus, baseball spring training, college baseball, spring football, it's all available at Dog and Duck's 3 locations in Mount Pleasant.
The Habbo radio station everyone loves.
I love them a lot.
JB and Darren.
I love you, man. I love you too, bud. I love you, dude. I love you, bro Montana. I love you, Holmes. I love you, Broseph Quibbles. I love you, Machacha. I love you, Tico Brohe.
Okay. Let's continue here.
On the JB and Goldwater Show.
12:33. Welcome back. Monday afternoon on the JB and Goldwater Show, March 22nd. Quick update from the tournament. They are scoring points in a hurry in this Oregon-Iowa game. 30-24, just under 10 minutes left still in the first half of that one. But outside of Luka Garza, there's not a lot of folks putting points on the board for the Hawkeyes. He's got half of their 24 already, and we'll keep you updated as the afternoon rolls along. All right, the afternoon is certainly rolling along in Columbia. It's been a busy morning for Wes Mitchell and weekend, as a matter of fact. Just got off the Zoom, Wes, with some of the boys from the Gamecock football squad. I know some of the players we're meeting with you guys this morning, and we'll get an update on that and much, much more. But first of all, happy March Madness, brother. How's your bracket look?
No comment.
All right, where'd you have Illinois going?
Oh God, I don't even know, y'all. So honestly, I did a bracket on ESPN, and then I did a bracket with it was some like bracket where you could win like some money or whatever, and I literally filled out one myself, and I hit randomize on the other, and at one point my randomized one was better than the one I filled out. So, and it was literally it wasn't weighted towards the seeds or anything like that. It was literally 50-50, completely random. And it actually has Arkansas winning. So if Arkansas makes it all the way, that one may have a shot at winning, a complete random one, because I doubt many people have them.
Doesn't that irritate you? I mean, I remember like in college, we would do, our friends we'd have a group, right? And everybody do brackets and things like that. And like some of our girlfriends, and they didn't even watch basketball. The Hawkeyes. Oh, that seems cool. And they picked them, and they beat us every time just based on colors. I mean, I'm not trying to be sexist, but literally I'd sit here, watch them fill out these brackets, and I'm like, what are you doing? And then lo and behold, they knew exactly what they're doing. It seemed like. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't really matter how much you know about it. I mean, a lot of it just ends up being random, I feel like.
Yeah, it's always random. Always random. All right. Well, you're not random. You're around here every Monday, so it's nice to see you again, my friend. Did you get to spend the full 20 minutes on Saturday with the football team?
I was there for the full 20, man.
The full 20. Not a minute too soon. What'd you see? Obviously, it's a new regime, Wes. Some new players, you got some transfers, new coaches. What'd you see out there?
Yeah, it was good to be back out there. Obviously, it was some actual normalcy, I would say, for us. First time out there in over a year, which was cool. Good energy. You've got sort of this constant drumbeat of Luke Day, Derek Moore, Byron Gerardo, who I feel like are sort of the guys pushing things at all times. They're constantly yelling, constantly sort of trying to get everybody fired up. I watched Derek Moore, I think literally during the warm-up line, go and hit every player on the helmet and hug every player and sort of hype them up, but show them a little bit of love as well. And it was fun. I mean, literally every friend I have has been like, hey, how'd we look Saturday? And I'll be like, look like a football team, man. Like it's hard to, you can't say, there's nothing to take from this other than, you get your eyes on the newcomers. You get a feel for its practice structured maybe a little bit differently. Of course, every coach is going to have their way of doing things. For the first time, this has got to be in forever. This actually oddly took a second to get used to. The defensive players are in garnet now, and the offensive guys are in white, which I think for as long as I can remember, the practice jerseys were always flipped. So that my brain had to kind of get used to that, I think. And no names on the back of the practice jerseys. I wondered aloud. I keep hearing about how, it's been sort of team has been it's something they've pushed all off season. I sort of wondered, is that another sort of just built in, hey, you're practicing for the name on the front, not the back.
Very Lou Holtz-ish, if so. That's exactly what he did when he got to South Carolina. I think, Wes, I mean, you're at all of these, so you would know much better than me. But if I was out there, the things I would be looking for are who looks different, who acts different. You've seen these guys from time to time, their energy level. I'm talking about the players and things like that. But most notably, you're looking at surface stuff, right? And did you notice anybody were like, wow, his body has changed since the last time I saw him or anything like that?
Yeah, and I think you can tell, actually, strangely enough, you can even tell a little bit more once the pads go on. How do they fill out the pads? Because you're used to watching the guys most of the time in pads, and then they're out there running around in shorts and jerseys on Saturday. So it is a little bit different. I would say for the most part, you look a local guy for y'all. I thought Ortre Smith looked outstanding physically. Just didn't have a brace on his knee or even so much as a sleeve on his knee. So that's something I like to look at first and foremost. Who's out there? Who's running around? Maybe that's been banged up in the past. No surprise, but I thought Luke Dodie looked outstanding physically. He has taken his leadership, sort of ownership of this team, and sort of being that sort of drumbeat that's pushing everybody. It's hard to do that as a true freshman when you first get there, but once you have maybe a year under your belt, you can sort of start to do that a little bit more. I think you sort of saw that from Luke. I always look at newcomers, man. E.J. Jenkins, who is actually now at tight end, he looks exactly like I sort of expected, just a massive kid. And I kept looking at him. I was like, man, who does this guy remind me of? And I posted it on the board. Maybe it's the number 13, maybe it's the hair, but he reminded me physically of Kelvin Benjamin, who
from Florida State.
Yeah, played at Florida State, played for the Panthers. Benjamin, I think, was more of a receiver for his entire career. EJ, obviously, working with the tight ends right now. But just physically, when off the hook, when you look at him, that's sort of what he reminds you of when he walks up. So that maybe gives fans, I remember Kelvin Benjamin just looking like a monster out there because he's just bigger and thicker than a lot of the other guys out there.
It's funny you say that. I did not see the post on the board, but when you started kind of getting into it, I could read your mind and knew exactly what you're going to say, and I would agree with you. I think he looks exactly like him. I did find a couple of things interesting this morning, and maybe we can kind of tie this into what you saw at practice. But Mo Kaba, one of the players who spoke with the media this morning, Wes, and I believe I'm pulling this quote, I think directly from you, as a matter of fact, on Twitter. So sorry about that. Or excuse me, on the message boards. This is why you should be a member to Gamecock Central, because you get this stuff for everybody. What has Beamer brought to the program? A question asked of Mo Kaba, and he answered with accountability. You see him everywhere. Whatever you do, he's right there with you. You go to the meeting room, and he's already in there. You go work out, and he already got his workout in too. He's earned my trust already just by his actions. And I'm not, this is not a conversation meant in any way, shape, or form to disparage Will Muschamp or Steve Spurrier or anybody previously, but how does this compare to the previous staff and maybe even beyond that?
Yeah, and Mo Kaba was very quick to point out, hey, Muschamp was my guy too. And I don't, honestly, we have a sort of sense as fan base, media, whenever something's new, we point out all the positives of the new guy and point out all the negatives of the old guy and stuff like that. So I don't want to go down that road, but because I think Mo was very, he was very quickly pointing out, hey, this is not a shot at Coach Muschamp. But I do think, sometimes a new message when things are not working out with the old message, if you're winning 11 games a year and competing for championships, maybe the same message, keep throwing that thing out there. But when things go bad, a new approach is needed. And it was, I think the big push from Beamer and staff has been, hey, let's just be overly positive. Let's positive reinforcement. Let's create a different vibe in this room. And, I think the players have responded to it. I thought it was pretty powerful. The video they put out where they sort of went back to when Beamer first got to South Carolina. Then they had that first meeting he had with the team and then sort of brought it forward to the first practice. And, he said, look, I'm standing up here and I'm telling you, I'm going to earn your trust. Not sort of saying I deserve your trust already, saying I'm going to earn your trust. And I think that's something that has been a common theme that I've picked up. The guys have responded to that. The guys are enjoying it. This is a different approach, I think, in that it is hard work, yes, but they're trying. I think everything that Luke Day does, obviously the strength conditioning coach, he was picked by Shane Beamer for a reason, and that's sort of Beamer has the same vision for what your conditioning and strength program should be. And to me, everything they do has some element of either team building, of introducing competitiveness into what would otherwise just be, basically you're just out there getting worn down, like getting beat up. That's what strength and conditioning is. But let's involve some competitiveness in this. Let's involve some team building in this. Let's involve some element that makes it a little bit more fun. And this is college football. It's not the NFL. It's not supposed to be a professional outing every single time you go out there. You're supposed to be able to have a little bit of fun and goof off with your teammates. So I think that's something that has been really emphasized by this coaching staff.
Wes Mitchell, Gamecock Central on Twitter at Wes Mitchell GC. You mentioned all of that. Jordan Birch said the same thing this morning. Hey, Coach Muschamp was my guy, but Shane Beamer's coming here and he's delivered on everything that he's promised. I don't know what Shane Beamer has promised anybody in that locker room outside of I'm going to give you everything I got or whatever the case is. But I do find it interesting, Wes, and I also find it very smart, to be blunt about it, of Shane Beamer to walk in and not necessarily try to, this is my way and how we're going to do things. That kind of rock the boat type situation you could have when you have a change in leadership in any sport. He walked in and embraced what these guys had committed themselves to previously, it appears. And basically, as you just pointed out, and saying that I'm going to earn your trust, has found a way to make the transition much easier on the players than it would be maybe on the new coaching staff. I would tend to believe that would move this program along quicker instead of having to start over and then kind of start rebuilding yourselves. I don't know that he's necessarily rebuilding. I think he's just kind of, they're going to change some things. They're going to fix some things, certainly, but he's not just pushing the wall forward and then trying to build it back up brick by brick.
Yeah, well, and I think the focus of this entire offseason has been, hey, let's try to get the culture to where we want it to be. Let's get the expectation to where we want it to be. Are there going to be bumps along the way? Absolutely. Does South Carolina, frankly, have to add talent, along the way to get where they want to be? Absolutely. But I think this is about setting expectations. You sort of, I know there was some hand wringing about the transfers out, the outgoing transfers this offseason, but some of that, a cleanse can be a good thing if it's something where if guys don't want to be at South Carolina or don't want to buy in, it's better for them to go somewhere else where they're more comfortable or want a new start. And that goes both ways. You have transfers in, you have transfers out, and then it allows you to start with, okay, everybody in this room wants to be in this room. That matters. Obviously, then the thing becomes to, hey, keep let's build the scheme. Let's install the scheme. Let's get everybody on the same page. There is a long path ahead for Beamer, the coaches, these players, and they know that. But I think as far as starting off on a very good footing and sort of starting to, you can see the first little part of the vision for this program, and it's kind of that. I'm about to butcher the saying, but it's like the no matter how far of a path you have, it all begins with kind of that first step and getting off to the right start. And I think that's what we're seeing right now is you're starting to see the vision sort of way off in the distance, but you can see it.
They'll be on the field tomorrow. They're off today. The schedule, the 23rd, 25th, and 27th this week. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday practices for Gamecock football. And kind of poking around over the last, I'd say, few weeks, Wes, some of the folks I've talked to, I know you have much more information than most of us out there as you kind of try to figure out exactly what is going on in the Gamecock locker room and things like that. But one of the things, and again, I've been a vocal supporter of Will Muschamp in the past, and I'll always be. I really liked Will. It just didn't work out. So this isn't a shot at Will Muschamp or his coaching staff or anything like that. But I think one of the things that has at least appeared to me personally, if you and I were just having a conversation over a drink at a bar, Will Muschamp, one of the things he did when he got to South Carolina was talk about being a blue-collar program. which I think he had every ounce of him saying that he was trying to make sure that he had a blue collar program. But I also felt like maybe as you look back, some of the coaches that he had hired, great people and great coaches. I don't know if they were the right fit for South Carolina. When you look at what they had done in their careers, where they had recruited to, Georgia and Alabama and schools like that, it may became a little bit easier than it does at South Carolina. And then you look at some of the guys that Shane has hired. We'll see how it works out for them. It's pretty early in all of their tenures. But when you say the term blue collar in the poking around I've done, it feels like maybe this staff might fit that term a little bit better than some of those high profile names that were first on board when Mush got.
Yeah, I think you have a staff that is very driven and very grateful to be at South Carolina. So, all these things can go both ways. You like to have guys that have some SEC experience, that have sort of experienced what it's like battling on the field and, off the field in these recruiting battles. There's nothing quite like an SEC true recruiting battle where you've got the top programs in this conference going at it and jockeying back and forth. So there's value from that side. But I think what we saw is there is, and I've talked about this before, probably on the show, if you bring guys in from these sort of more traditional SEC powers, for lack of a better word, sometimes, and some of it may even be subconsciously, and sometimes it's maybe even not subconsciously, it's outward. Sometimes a guy may feel like he's a little bit better than South Carolina, may feel like he's taken a step down. Whereas you hire these guys that South Carolina has right now, whether they are a graduate such as Eric Kimry, whether they are a childhood fan like Justin Stepp, or whether you're just a guy coming in who's thrilled for that break to get to coach in the SEC, like let's say a Clayton White who's worked his way up and worked really, really hard to work his way up. Luke Day talks about being grateful a lot to the guys. And I think that's, Luke Day, when, coaches obviously exaggerate things a lot, but when Luke Day said he would have walked from West Virginia to Columbia, I actually think he would have at least attempted it. Like, he would have literally seen how long it would take, I think, to walk from West Virginia. Now, he might have been late the first day of work, which would have been a problem. But these guys really, I feel like, I don't think that's coaching BS, like coach speak. So I think they want to be here. We'll see how it all plays out. Right now, we are in the honeymoon phase where everything's good, everything's gravy, everything's fun. But if you're a Carolina fan, you can feel excited about the newness in the program right now. It's okay to let yourself get excited about the possibilities, I think.
As time goes on, we are, again, one whole practice into this thing. But as time goes along, are you keeping an eye on any players specifically, Wes, whether it be position changes, potential position changes, maybe some guys who maybe have already moved, we're just not necessarily aware of it, things like that? You already mentioned EJ Jenkins, but I mean, how about a guy like Zaquandre White, to give an example? I think he's starting with the tailbacks. Will he finish there? What guys are you keeping an eye on of interest that could or couldn't be moving to different positions this spring?
Yeah, nobody in particular is like far as a major position move. I think maybe some guys that move within their current position. I thought it was interesting. Jalen Nichols, who I believe we've seen pretty much all at offensive tackle. He was working first team left guard, which I think is actually a good fit for him. He's always been a guy I said, hey, that kid could play tackle or guard. Tonka Hemingway was lining up, at least doing through drills with the interior guys. I think he's maybe, now that, he played 3 sports in high school, it's very hard to put on the weight you need to be an SEC defensive lineman if you're sprinting up and down a basketball court, which he was a very good high school basketball player. So, guys sometimes grow their way out of their current position. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. What happens as far as the other defensive linemen? Do you get Enigbare and Jordan Birch on the field, at the same time, opposite of each other? Where does Jordan Strong fit in as far as that position goes? who's going to play the nickel in this 4-2-5 scheme, which they're basing out of a 4-2-5 now.
Right.
So, to me, it's more, okay, we know who all the defensive backs are for the most part, but who gets slotted where sort of when you get into the detailed corner, nickel, safety, who goes where. And, I thought it was a good sign for Zaquandre. I think Kevin Harris was maybe in the group. So basically, if you're at practice, right, you have the guys practicing. Then you have some guys that are a little bit limited, but are still able to practice. Then you obviously have some guys that are just out. And then you have the guys that are able to run around and maybe stretch and do some different exercises, but aren't actually practicing. So I think Kevin Harris was maybe in the group that was banged up a little bit, or either I just didn't see him. Point being, Zaquandre White was, I think, the first running back out there on Saturday as far as like walk through with the first team. So I thought that was a good sign for him to maybe be able to stick, at running back, because it's kind of wide open as far as the depth once you start getting behind Harris. I think we all expect Lloyd to be awesome, but you need 3. So we'll see what happens with Zaquandre. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'll tell you, position wise, not as far as position change, but I'd love to just, if I could really just be a fly on the wall, I'd love to go out there and just watch the receivers for a few days and see who's ready to step up there. Cause there's really, everybody knows that position is a question mark, but also there's a bunch of dudes at receiver. It's not like you lack bodies there. There's a ton of guys there. So I'd love to get out there and watch Justin Stepp work and see what that group's going to be all about.
Shane said Friday he liked the talent of this group. Is that coach speak? Is that hyperbole? Is that truth? What do you think it is?
I think it's a guy being positive, but I think yeah, there's potential in this group. I think we can get all into the semantics of it, and does the group have to be better than it was last year? Absolutely, but
yeah.
but man, you've got newcomers there. You've got guys that have a year under their belt. You've got guys that are getting healthy, and Stepp is the best receiver coach in the country according to Shane Beamer, which again is it's one of those things. I think you run it through the lens, right? Like, yes, Beamer's being a little extra positive. There's a lot of good receiver coaches in the country, but is Justin Stepp as highly valued and highly thought of as about anybody in the country? Yes. He will do an outstanding job with this group, and I think everybody knows that. So I'm if I'm a fan, I don't know if we're quite at the like cautiously optimistic point yet with that group, but I don't think we're at the point of saying, to write that group off either, because all it's going to take, there's going to be so much competition there. You're going to be maybe one of the transfers is a guy, maybe one of the older guys that's trying to get healthy ends up being a starter, and then maybe one of the freshmen from last year is ready to take a big step forward. You're sort of pulling from multiple situations, right? So, and then you got you got a freshman or two coming in too.
Debo Swinney spent years telling everybody how great everybody is in his program. I don't see why Shane can't say the same thing at South Carolina. Hey, I've said, I know you're, and Darren, you're laughing. You should be, because I was being a little facetious there. But at the same time, I said this before Shane got hired. I mean, the model, a lot of people didn't like the model in the upstate, but it worked.
Yeah, that's right. I was super critical of it, and for good reason. A lot of people were, but you can't be critical of it now. But yeah, of course, if you're a head coach anywhere, you're going to pop your guys up, especially when talking about your guys to your guys. Yeah. Keep propping them up as much as you can.
Kind of how we talk about Wes when he's not around. What are we looking for the next couple of days on Gamecock Central? Obviously, you'll be covering spring practice. Big week for Frank Martin. I'm sure we'll be looking for an update. There's not much to talk about right now on that, but over the next couple of days, what are we keeping our eyes on with GamecockCentral.com?
Yeah, we'll be following that. Hopefully there's something to report to everybody there soon. And we'll be diving into spring practice. We'll have obviously our observational type stuff, and then our the Zoom stuff like they did today. You got pro timing day, I guess, is Wednesday afternoon. And I think Chris and I will probably be able to dive in and maybe give a little bit of that behind the scenes insight on some things we've heard from once it starts getting into the point where there's been a few practices, we'll be able to start to provide a little bit of additional insight that hopefully our subscribers will enjoy.
How many, real quick, how many players will South Carolina have at timing day on Wednesday?
I really don't know. I think they're all the guys that are going to be at timing day, I think, are speaking tomorrow. So, so we'll see. If they've sent that out yet, I have not seen it. So we'll see.
I haven't seen it either. We'll keep our eyes on that, and we'll keep our eyes on Gamecock Central. We always do. That's where we get our information and then regurgitate it as our own around here. I'm just kidding. We give credit where credit's due, and you know that. Hey, man, thank you so much. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. I hope your bracket gets some type of savior to it.
It's over, guys. I've accepted it.
It provides fuel for your fire. That's what we hope.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wes, thanks, brother. Have a wonderful week.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Yes, sir. Wes Mitchell with Gamecock Central. Time for a timeout. National Anthem up next, and then after, Mike Uva with Watch Fox. Speaking of Frank Martin, we'll talk to him about that. And Dawn and the Lady G's, how deep will they go? Right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at McFadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about McFadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risk their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston. Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Low Country. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
JB Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
Final hour is Monday afternoon. Welcome back to JB and Goldwater's show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. It is Power Hour, brought to you by our friends at Wando Power Equipment. We'll tell you about their open house coming up later on this week in just a few moments. But welcome back. If the main screen right now, that's me, JB, also Darren Goldwater, of course, and Mike Uva with Watch Fox. Real quick, an update from the tournament. The West Region game that tipped at 12-10 is a barn burner at halftime, 56-46. Seventh seeded Oregon has the lead over second seeded Iowa, and Luka Garza, who's already put an entire game into one half, he's got 22 of their 46 points. He's an All-American for a reason, but Oregon hasn't missed, I don't think, anything in the first half. For that matter, mostly neither is Iowa. This is a hell of a game so far. The next one at 2:40, Oklahoma and Gonzaga. But fireworks early on in March Madness on a strange Monday afternoon to be broadcasting ball games, as Darren mentioned at the top of the program. But it's not strange when Mike's here. It's, as you tweeted out, Darren, it's hair day on our program. We go from Wes Mitchell to Mike Uva. What's up, man?
Doing good, man. I'm all natural today. I got nothing in the hair quite yet. Trying to go to the gym to run off some of those biscuits, but we'll put some product in later tonight for the 11 o'clock show.
How many biscuits? Let's go like a week. How many Uvas are you eating per week?
I'm eating like 6 to 7 of them. Probably, I don't know. Maybe have one every other week. You gotta, there's a lot going on right now. You're trying to fit into your two-piece. It's almost river season, going down the rivers. You want to make sure you're fitting in the bathing suit right. You got to be careful. But with that being said, I encourage people to go out there and eat like 6 or 7 of them each day.
A day, yeah.
Yeah, not a week, a day.
And when they float the river, which I have many memories from that river,
oh, God.
take a biscuit with you.
I can't believe it took me until last year to experience the river. And look, I know there's some people out there say that thing's disgusting. It's like, you know what? You want to be one of those people? Fine. Stay at home, swim in your fancy pool, have fun. Right? I'm going down the river, alligators, everything, whatever. I almost got bit by a beaver last year. We got off. We got off around 9 o'clock because I was an idiot and I didn't bring my paddle. It was me and another person. We went down the river and I didn't bring a paddle. I'm like, oh, we'll be fine. And it got getting darker and darker. And they're like, it got to a point where we're approaching downtown. I think it's, was it the Black Rooster? Is that where I think people get off from the river in Columbia?
Or the Rosewood boat landing.
There was a beaver. We could hardly see. I didn't know what it was. And it was, mouth was just open and you're going down into the rocks. And I'm just like, oh boy. So I'm paddling like I'm Lewis Snow Clark and I'm trying to get out. And we made it out. But my advice to anyone, I think this goes without saying, I'm just a ham bone. Do not go late. Make sure you are off the river late because you don't know what's underneath there. And you definitely don't want to be out there when you can't see things that are above the water. So, yep. But I'm looking forward to the river, though.
Well, just drink enough, and then whatever bites you, it just won't hurt as bad.
Shoot, I could have done that. JPP has he's running out of rings for Super Bowl championship rings. Shoot, worked out for him. It was a little bit different, fireworks.
Look, that wasn't my strategy at all. Those are my friends. That's what they did. They'd start when we got out there at 9 a.m. and they'd finish when we got done at 9 p.m. So, that's the way it works. Yeah. We'll move on from that. Speaking of beavers, hopefully the Oregon State Beavers don't bite the cocks of South Carolina. I know, I heard it. Ha ha. That is coming up tomorrow night. This has got to be an amazing moment in your career. Of all the things you've covered, all the beer that's been spilled on you in the Village Idiot and this and that, you've never had the Beavers and the Cocks in one game.
I'm trying to think. Did it happen a couple years ago, women's basketball?
They've played twice with Dawn Staley. That's true. I was just trying to make a big deal out of this. Yeah.
Well,
Dawn is 1-1 against them.
I'll get excited about it. No, I think it's great. And look, I would be lying to you if I said I have seen Oregon State women's basketball play this year. but I feel like one of the things that I've just noticed, whether it's them or whether it be any team in the tournament that South Carolina has played, it seems like Pac-12 basketball players, I don't know where they grow them, but they are some of the tallest people on the planet. So it's always created a mismatch for South Carolina down in the paint. And we've seen South Carolina kind of combat that with trying to go maybe with 3 guards and use that speed. So I'm interested to see what that would look like. But we'll worry about that when the game tips off.
7:00 tip tomorrow night on ESPN. I mean, look, I've said from day one with this team, if they play the way they're capable of playing because of their talent, they can beat anybody in the country. They're better than everybody in the country when all that talent plays the way they should. But at times it doesn't, and maybe there's youth and issues with that. Who knows? But now they got a bigger problem. They got Lily Grissett out, and I'm interested to see what Dawn does. Getting through a 116, that wasn't going to be as much of an issue. Darren's already pointed this out. Tomorrow night shouldn't be as much of an issue either. They could have some here and there, but getting through Maryland, that's going to be a problem without Lily Grissett and without them playing their best basketball. Where do you rank this Dawn Staley 1 seed of all of those that you've covered? Where is this one amongst that group?
I think it's tough to pinpoint just because, like you said, Grissett's out. But Victoria Saxton did a tremendous job just yesterday being able to score 20 points. And kind of going back to what I said, I mean, I didn't even look at the roster. I pull up the roster. How about this? They have 2 6'9" players, and they have a 6'6" and a 6'4" player. 2 6'4" players, but 2 6'9". So I didn't even need to see the tape about Oregon State. I could have told you they had tall players. So I think going back with that question, though, I think what it comes down to is it's tough to compare it just because they're not at full strength right now. And I think the way that obviously Leah Boston played yesterday and the way that Victoria Saxton played, if they continue to play like that, there's no reason, regardless if they're hoisting the championship trophy when things are all said and done, that could be one of the best tournament teams that South Carolina has had. I'm not saying overall teams. I do think this is a very talented team. Do I feel like there is a drop-off from last year? Absolutely. Because you lost 2 tremendous seniors. Now, is that to say that this team isn't capable of winning a national championship? Absolutely not. But I think more than anything, it just comes down to taking care of business right now, seeing what you have to do in terms of getting by and getting back to on the court if you are someone like Grissett, and just trying to be able to get healthy. Because if they have her, that takes the burden off someone like Victoria Saxton. That takes the burden off someone like Aaliyah Boston. It takes the burden off some of the guards because you're going to have to probably go smaller at times. And as I mentioned, getting ready for Oregon State, I mean, you're literally going to be going up against skyscrapers tomorrow night. 2 6'9" players. Now, granted, who knows if they even see the court? They might just be like what was that movie? The Sledgehammer, the Hammer, and Martin Lawrence movie, The Rebound. The goofy kid was just out there standing around.
Did you watch that?
I have no idea what you're talking about there. No.
You never seen the movie Rebound with Martin Lawrence? He coaches like a youth basketball team, and there's this tall, goofy kid, and they call him like the Sledgehammer. And like everyone, all the coaches and players on the other team, they just look at him, they're intimidated. But all he's there to do is just play defense, put his hands up, and then towards the end of the movie, he gets the ball, and they finally realize the kid is just an absolute buffoon. But I don't think that will be the case with these 2 Oregon State players.
That was one of the movies I think that kind of hammered Martin Lawrence's career into the ground.
Synopsis. I mean, if you pull up Rotten Tomatoes, I'm sure the reviews are just unbelievable.
No, they're terrible. But he got a little bit of a pick me up when they brought back Bad Boys for Life. Was it last year or the year before? Pretty good. All right. Well, let's slide to the men. It's been quiet. It's been quiet on the Frank Martin front. Mike, I know if there's anybody out there digging for it, I know you're digging, but from what I understand, there's not much coming up with those shovels right now. What does that tell you about the situation?
I think it's kind of like a game of poker and who's going to fold first in a sense. And I know that might not be a true representation of the when you really break it down, but big picture, I kind of feel like we're trying to see, okay, is South Carolina bluff first or is Frank Martin going to bluff first? Because at the end of the day, just like any type of business, I don't care if it's coaching basketball, I don't care if it's media, I don't care if it's marketing or whatever job you have. If there's contracts involved, everyone at the end of the day is going to want to have the upper hand. I mean, that's just life. So I think more than anything, Frank, of course, wants a contract extension. And the reason he wants that contract extension is because in his eyes, he cannot do his job by recruiting as well as he needs to, in his opinion, if he doesn't have that security to be able to go into living rooms or, right now via Zoom and tell players and parents like, hey, this is what I envision over, year 1 through 4 or, years 1, 2, or 3, depending on how long their son stays at the university. And this is how I envision being able to help your son take his game to the next level and being able to help him as a person. He just feels like he can't do that. But from a university's perspective, they don't want to give him an extension. But at the same time, too, he has 2 years left on his contract. You're looking at about, $5 million if you buy out that contract. So I think it's the waiting game from the university to see, is Frank interested in going out and pursuing another job? From everything I've been told, his camp has told USC, oh, yeah, I've talked with some other schools. Now, does that mean Frank has reached out or Frank's camp? Or does that mean other schools have reached out to him? Doesn't mean anything, really. I mean, it could be that that neither of that has happened. Do I feel like schools have reached out to Frank's agent? I'm sure. I don't have definitive proof to back that up, but I'm sure. But I think what it comes down to is if Frank has interest from another school and they are willing to take Frank out from USC, that buyout disappears. And I think USC is looking at it from that perspective. But at the same time, too, I think they're trying to do this in a manner in which is respectful for Frank. I don't think they want to screw Frank over. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to do this as cleanly as possible. But the challenge is, and when we talked about it today in the latest episode of Beyond the Zone, the new podcast I have, we have Murray Garvin, the former SC State men's basketball coach who just last week found out his contract wasn't renewed. It was the first time he came out of the house to do anything. And he came on the podcast with Colin Taylor of Gamecock Central and Tamarcus Blanton, former Gamecock guard and assistant coach for Frank. And he explained that I'm glad they ripped the Band-Aid off for me at the beginning of the week because I could not imagine going a whole week. Now, circumstances for this case are different because Frank has 2 years left on his contract. And I'm sure they're not doing it to just be, asshats. I doubt that's the case. I think more than anything, they're trying to figure out, like I said, if another school comes in, okay, then we're not going to have to, pay that buyout. So at some point, though, push is going to come to shove. And I don't know if it's a better sign or not the longer this drags out. When I say better sign, meaning Frank coming back here. So I'd expect something to come out soon. I mean, I can't see this going towards the end of the week. I just really can't. But then again, I wasn't expecting to be here on Monday still talking about this.
Well, let me ask you this. I said it to Jamie earlier today, and I don't know this to be true. It's just a random speculation on my part. The women are in the midst of a tournament run, however long that goes. I mean, would Ray Tanner want any news, whether it's Martin's coming back or Martin's not coming back, to overshadow that run?
And that's something that I've spoke with people that are close to the situation, and that has been brought up. And that's why I knew, regardless of how things were going to play out at the end of last week, I'm like, there's no way Ray's going to come out on a Sunday before the women's basketball game and say that we are moving on from Frank Martin. Or, the only thing is, if Frank does come back, does that news really overshadow the women's program? And I think that's the only thing. If he comes back, it doesn't overshadow it. And I've seen some people have response because, people that follow me on Twitter, and you guys know this, I try to stay very engaging with people who follow me on Twitter. I understand what they say. Is it really news if Frank's coming back? To me, yeah, it is, because we would hear something from Frank usually by now in terms of when the year's over. We have not heard that yet. And when there's speculation going on about your future, if you do come back, that is newsworthy. When you have a credible reporter put out a report that says that this is pretty much done, and I'm not bashing on him in particular. I'm not bashing on, I'll say his name, Phil Kornblut, who I have the utmost respect for. I think he does a tremendous job, and he's been here a long time. And he's, like the godfather when it comes to high school recruiting in this area. And he's done a tremendous job, and he's in the Hall of Fame here. When he puts a report out like that, that grabs people's attention, man, whether you agree with it or not. So if Frank comes back, yeah, I think that's a pretty big deal. I think that's newsworthy.
Well, I agree. And if he comes back, I mean, there's going to be news that follows that. I think we all, for the most part, expect that this roster is not going to return in its entirety. And so what happens with that? Will there be changes on his staff if he returns to South Carolina? I'm not saying that would happen, but it's reasonable to think that it could happen, certainly. And then obviously if he's not back, but that's I think what is catchy about all of this is we are talking about the timeline and how this timeline is maybe extended itself a little bit. It's quiet and things of that nature. And I feel like, Mike, we're that all, me included, we're all working under this assumption that okay, well, they haven't made a move because of this reason or that reason. That's all kind of the assumption of they're going to make a move. And it's almost at this point in time like it'll be maybe more surprising that he's back at South Carolina than if he's not back at South Carolina.
Yeah, and I've gone back and forth on it. I remember at the beginning of the week, from just having conversations with people that are close to the program, I kept saying, if this drags out, I feel like that's probably a better sign that he's going to come back, maybe moving it from 60% not coming back to 60% that he's staying. And then as the week goes on, it's like, well, there's coaches that I know USC is interested in that are in the tournament.
Yep.
Well, let me throw this out here, okay? All sunshine and rainbows, life's good. Mike Boyden is not coming through those doors next year, regardless if Frank Martin is if Frank Martin is not retained. I'm sorry to say that. And if he does, I will be the first one to say that I was the moron that told you otherwise. There's no shot he is coming back because, first off, why would you want to leave right now? You have everything going for you at Oklahoma State. You are a 4th seed in that tournament. You are going to get a contract extension, and not just a contract extension being able to get a year or two. You're going to get some serious money for what you were able to do this year. What he's building over there, if I'm Boynton, I stay right now. Is there an opportunity for him maybe to come back at South Carolina years from now? Absolutely. But if I'm him, I'm not going anywhere. And I think Gamecock fans, they love that name. Well, he's a former Gamecock. Well, that's great. What does that mean? Because at the end of the day, money's still green. And if there's a good situation and he's getting paid comfortably at Oklahoma State, why would you leave? Why would you leave? So that's one of the names that's just that sticks out to me. But I don't know. And we discuss it at nauseum in this podcast, kind of the challenges that coaches had to go through. Because Murray Garvin, outside of South Carolina, and I'd even say maybe a little bit more because they're under they're not in the limelight as much. South Carolina State probably got hit worse than any team in the country when it came to COVID issues because not only did they miss a plethora of games, but their players weren't even able to get back on campus until October. And he had 10 new players to Division I. And yet he's not back next season. It's a tough business, but there's a lot of challenges and things that I don't think people realize that went into this season. And I just think that, look, I know it's not as simple as, hey, you know what, Frank, we understand you went through the challenges this year. We're going to give you the contract extension. I understand that it's a business and that USC has to do what they believe is going to be best for their program and for the university. But at the same time, too, man, you're not Duke, you're not North Carolina. Realize who you are and realize what Frank Martin has done for this program. If you just want him to run away, okay, grass might not be greener on the other side. And you're going to have to go through a 3, 4, 5-year process of trying to rebuild and get to a point of being competitive again. So if you just want to press the reset button, have fun with it. But to me, I just don't think it's time right now. But I think USC might ultimately just run him out by basically just saying, hey, we're not giving you a contract extension. That is our way of saying we don't really want you back here.
Yep. Well, yeah, and that's the question, right? Is that what it's coming down to? Is Carolina saying – we're not giving – I don't know what they're saying. I have no idea what I don't have 1 ounce of information of any word that's come out of Coach Tanner's mouth about any of this. I have no idea. But, we're just speculating here. That's the question is it, well, okay, you have a chance to fix it, but you're not getting the extension. And then that falls in Frank's lap where he says, well, I left because I didn't get an extension. Or I'm back and I'm going to throw all my cards to the front of the table here and let's see what happens. Here's the thing. The doors across the country are closing, Mike, Darren. Kevin Kruger got hired this weekend at UNLV. Richard Pitino got hired at New Mexico, although I think most thought that Frank probably wouldn't end up there. I think the DePaul job is still out there. Some of these other major jobs, he might have thrown his name in the hat, but he's not going to get them. And then we'll see what else. Yeah, if there's something else that comes open, there's still a lot of movement left in college basketball because the tournament is still being played. So we don't really know where it could go. But with what we have seen, the doors are closing quickly, and you would anticipate a decision might be made, I would think, sooner than later. I mean, who balks first, who bluffs first on this thing? I don't know.
Yep. And that's what it comes down to, right? Going back to what I mentioned about, everyone in life wants the upper hand. And I think Frank sees it as, well, I still have a job. I'm not gonna resign, because I've seen people have mentioned that. Why would Frank resign? He's getting paid pretty well right now. I mean, the season's over and he's still getting checks. So why would you resign? On top of that, too, and I know I've mentioned this a couple times. Murray Garvin brings up the things that I think we all know, but we just don't mention in this podcast, which is he has children. He's got 2 kids that are in high school right now. He's got a son that's at USC Upstate. He likes it in South Carolina. He's happy in South Carolina. But when you don't know what your future could look like, that's very scary. And as Garvin mentioned, your first responsibility is not as a basketball coach. Your first responsibility is being a man, being a husband, being a father. And it's scary to have to look your wife in the eyes, and probably scarier for your kids, because, your wife has probably experienced the jumps. Obviously they've gone through things when Frank was up at, Northeastern in Massachusetts, to going, across country, Cincinnati and, Kansas State. So she understands it. But for kids, I mean, that's tough. That's tough. And, he's got some very, very athletic children. So, a lot of this stuff goes through your mind. So there's a lot of factors. And I think, is that going to be the ultimate decision, and say, in helping Frank not be, the only word I can think of is bullheaded, and kind of come down a little bit? I don't know, because I don't blame him if he is scared of saying, I come back, but I just don't know if I have another year left after this, even though I have another year left in my contract, because my buyout would be much less.
Mike Uva, watch Fox. All right. Carolina's season has been over for what? Almost 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. Not one player on this roster has announced a transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Not one player on this roster. What does that tell you?
That they're waiting to see what's going on too.
But what I'm saying is, I mean,
they love Frank.
Yeah,
I think they love Frank, and that's one of the things Tamarcus Blanton talked about on this podcast that just came out today. That being able to show the kind of the behind the scenes stuff that people don't see, that Frank does on a day-to-day basis, and what he does even beyond your days of playing. And, not just for players, but for coaches too, because like I said, Blanton had that opportunity to experience something very unique, not only playing for Frank, but being part of his coaching staff. So he provides a lot of great intel to that. And I do want to mention this too, because I thought about this, and I don't know if people have really put too much thought into it. Last week, we saw Sindarius Thornwell. We saw PJ Dozier. We saw Dwayne Notice. We saw a lot of former players be very vocal on social media showing their support for Frank Martin. And one of the things that I started thinking about after work, that one of those nights after seeing all that, where are the current players? Why aren't they saying anything? And the only thing I could think of to this, and I don't blame them, they're afraid if they say anything and Frank's not there, what that could look like in the eyes of USC. So the reason I mention that is maybe someone else has thought about that, and maybe they're like, maybe these players don't support Frank. Maybe Frank has lost this locker room because no one's coming to his support and his aid on social media, or any of his current players. I wouldn't put too much stock into that, because they're current student athletes. And sometimes when you're in a situation, even though it's not it's not the same, but it's like kind of like, Frank Martin's the dad and the USC's mom, you're just trying to be in the middle and make sure that both sides are happy. I think it's a tough situation for a collegiate athlete to be in, especially basketball. Football is different. You have hundreds of players on the team. Basketball, it seems like the limelight is on you regardless if you're a starter or if you're the 12th man on the bench. So I just bring that up because maybe someone else has kind of thought about that, because I certainly did last week.
Well, I mean, and there was players with the football change who were outspoken in favor of Will Muschamp, but those are all players who are departing the roster.
Yep.
There wasn't anybody that, to my knowledge, that stayed, that was public about who the coach should be or shouldn't be or anything like that. And I mean, I'm with you. I'm saying don't look too far into that. You're a current player in a program. You probably need to just stay under the radar until there's some type of resolution to this, so you can figure out what you want to do, and then whatever. If you want to be vocal after that, that's fine. Well, hopefully it's the middle of the week. I don't know. I don't know when there's going to be a resolution to this, Mike. But we heard beginning of last week, middle of the week, maybe the weekend, and now it's maybe the middle of the week. I hope it's as soon as it can be for both sides. Period. The end. I don't mean that from one way or another. I think both sides deserve a resolution and to be able to move forward. And there's players that are involved in this, and they need to know what's going on.
They do. And you mentioned, we don't know what this roster is going to look like regardless if Frank is back or not. If Frank is gone, there's a good possibility that even more players will most likely leave, because especially for basketball, you have a new coach come in, they're going to try to create the program the way that they want to. And with the roster just being so limited in comparison to a sport like football, it's very challenging to be on a roster, especially if you're a sophomore or rising sophomore. That's challenging. So I'm with you. And I mentioned this before, and I know there's a lot of other things going on behind the scenes, but if it's becoming a game of bluff and chicken, just rip the Band-Aid off and keep it on, one way or the other, because Frank has earned at least that, and I think some people get so caught up with this year, or maybe some of the, not making the tournament. Frank's a good man, first and foremost. And not only that, but hey, go look back at your last 50 years. He has the same amount of tournament wins than any other coach that you have had in that span. This man deserves that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Mike. All right, I've got just a couple minutes left here, and then we'll let you run to your next biscuit or whatever the hell you're doing.
I think I'm going to go to the gym. Like I told you.
You're drinking the muscle milk. I'm assuming there's like the next step of the day.
I forgot to eat yesterday, and I realized that late last night. It was one of those busy days. So I'm in a new apartment. I don't have any food yet. So in the house, I have leftover village, but that's a couple, that might be 8 days old now. So this was the only thing I had.
Well, I had guys weekend in the mountains this weekend, so I'm on the water and lettuce diet this week. I've got to try to rejuvenate my soul, because it's awful.
There isn't a soul alive who has eaten well during the first couple rounds of the NCAA tournament, unless you're not paying attention at all.
Well, maybe I just won't pay attention, because I gotta figure this thing out. All right, what if anything that's caught your attention? Any it's one practice. We're one practice into the spring. We can't overreact, but anything that's caught your attention since they began on Saturday, since some of these guys have met with the media. By the way, shout out to Coach Beamer and Steve Fink and those guys for allowing everyone to talk if they're asked. Anything that's caught your attention thus far?
Yep, DeCarrion Joyner being with the ones. With receivers, and a lot of times too, when you have, and I tweeted this out there, I know it's way too early to start thinking about fall depth charts, but the reason why that stood out to me was not only the fact that he was out there with the ones, but the very first scripted pass, because it's all scripted, when they go out there and they start doing when you're on air, you're just going down the field, marching on the field, you got no defense, you're on air. Dodie's first pass was to Joyner, and Joyner was not in the slot. So I mention that because I think one of the things that has really frustrated South Carolina fans, and we can make a grocery list, I'm sure, over the last couple of years. But one of the things that has really frustrated Gamecock fans is just not being able to utilize a very, very talented player. Do I think he should be someone that plays quarterback? Yeah. I'm not at practice every day. I can't tell you how the kid's throwing. I can tell you what I've heard, but I'm not there every day. And I think there's a reason why he's not at quarterback. But he's so gifted that he can play multiple positions. And I think being able now, these last couple seasons, to learn that wide receiver position, because you have that mindset because you're a quarterback. You understand what the receivers have to do. But it's another thing to actually go out there and physically do it. He knows what is asked of him now. And I think being able to have Justin Stepp out there, I think being able to have a new offensive coordinator, Shane Beamer there, I think being able to have all these pieces in place now, and the way in which he's conducted himself, because he has been the model of what a teammate should look like. He's never complained. He's put his head down. He's gone through some injuries, but he's never griped once. I think I feel like good things happen to people like that. And I would not be shocked if Joyner has a real breakout season this year. And I would love it for the kid, and I'm sure there'd be a lot of people. I'm sure there'd even be some Clemson people that would be happy for this kid just because of the way he conducts himself. And we'll see. I mean, I just hope USC is able to find a way to take advantage of the talents that he has, because I just feel like we haven't been able to see that to its full potential in his first 3 seasons at USC.
Well, you know what that tells me? That tells me that that for a while, DeCarrion Joyner was a wide receiver who was like, okay, I'm out here, but I'm unsure of exactly what my role is going to be in this group. And they're telling him exactly what his role is going to be from day one. Hey, you're a dude, act like one. The ball's coming to you, catch it, and do whatever the hell it is you do with it. I think they're forcing that on him. Like, you're no longer the guy who moved from quarterback to wide receiver. You're DeCarrion Joyner. We're going to make you be DeCarrion Joyner by forcing the football to you. Period. The end. Step up to the plate. Let's see what happens. I think he needed that. He's a confident young man who's talented. I think that's exactly what he needed. Someone to literally not say, I believe in you. Show him.
Yeah.
I believe in you.
Ball's coming. You better be ready. It's coming.
But you know what? Real quick, what else that shows is if you have a player like that and he can go out there and he can just do something, especially if he's with the ones, though. What that shows the younger players right now is, hey, if I go out there, even if things aren't going my way right away, if I keep doing things the right way, I keep believing in this coaching staff, good things will happen, because look at DeCarrion. And you need upperclassmen right now to really set the tone, because when you have a new coach, the very first thing that happens is the underclassmen come in and they have no idea what college football is all about. I mean, they're looking up at, the posters and everything, and, I got some great swag. Look at my shoes. But they see the upperclassmen, the way that they lead, and depending on how they handle the situation, if they handle it crappy or if they handle it well, that will dictate the next 3 to 4 years of your program, because your underclassmen learn from that. It's like being in a house and having an older brother. My older brother goes out and does this and that. That's just, I guess that's the right and wrong. You need to be able to set the tone. And if DeCarrion can go out there and get some reps this year and be productive, what better way to show the underclassmen that you can be successful here than to do things the right way? And they have a lot of people, Nathan Harris-Waynick, they have a lot of players that are coming in here that are freshmen that are more than capable of doing that. But to be able to see someone that's older than you do that, that's the best way to be able to assure them that can happen to them.
I love Greg's comment here. Dak is a great kid and athlete. We need him somewhere on the field. And I'll add to that, this is a dude who in today's era, if there's anybody that should have said, I'm transferring and had every right to do it, it was him.
Yeah,
and he has not done that. He has, matter of fact, he's been totally opposing why he should transfer. All right, let's go up on the podcast. You got a great new gig going here. By the way, he's still a reporter with Watch Fox. He hasn't totally turned the page into his next career yet, but this new deal is I haven't had a chance to listen to the second one yet. I listened to the first one with Brewer and Beamer and Mo, and it was just fantastic conversation. So tell us about what we get to hear this week.
No, I appreciate that. And, obviously you and I, we've talked off air about it, and being a podcast rookie, being able to talk to someone like yourself has helped out a lot. So I greatly appreciate it. Bottom line is this: there's a lot of great podcasts out there, and I'm someone that, likes to be able to figure out what works and what doesn't, and be able to kind of make it my own. And one of the things that I took away from the Fade In podcast is that being able to have that roundtable conversational piece, I think, is just what people enjoy being able to listen to, instead of just going up there and interviewing someone. And every platform's different. And being able to do a once a week show, I think it just works for what I'm trying to do. So to be able to have multiple people on, I think is great. And I'll say this week's show, I know you heard Murray Garvin, you have a former Gamecock player. If you want to truly understand what Frank Martin is going through this season, this is a podcast that you must listen to. And not just Frank, but college coaches in general. We don't discuss necessarily if Frank will be back or should be back. I guess you could say if he should be back. But what I mean is, regardless of when you listen to this, if there's news later today that Frank's gone or Frank's coming back, it's not going to change anything. And to have someone like Murray Garvin, who literally just a week ago had his contract not renewed, he provides a perspective that you just will not find anywhere else other than probably Frank Martin himself, because he literally just went through a COVID season and he's not going to be back next season. And he didn't hold any ill will or grudges. He just said it how it was. And I think being able to have those two guys on and Colin Teal were tremendous. And later in the week, next week's show, I think, is really going to blow people away. We've already taped it. It's already in the can. The fact that we were able to get both these individuals together in a room really excited me, and I think it's really going to be eye-opening. So that's a major tease for next week's show. I will announce that later in the week, but it will probably be our most listened podcast. I could pretty much guarantee that.
Wow.
Come on, man.
Pretty much guarantee that.
Come on. You gonna really do that?
That's how you tease, man.
I mean, you know,
that's TV.
I'll let JB know. I'll shoot him a text. He'll tell you.
Okay. I'm gonna blow this. I'm gonna blow the roof off the whole house. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, send me a text. I want to know. I want to be the first or second to know. The Beyond the Zone podcast, I actually just retweeted this week's episode. Hopefully everybody follows Mike on Twitter, but you can get it anywhere, Apple Podcasts, all that type of stuff. Beyond the Zone, which is a Watch Fox 57, I guess property technically, but it's hosted by this man, Mike Uva, and it is, I'm telling you, it's something to see. It's something to hear. I'm really excited. I've got some yard work to do later on this afternoon, so I'll pop that in while I'm out there, and I'm looking forward to that. And we've kept you 10 minutes longer than we planned on it, so we probably owe you some money, so Darren will send you a check.
I got nothing going on here.
Oh, okay. All right. Just hoops. Well, good luck to the rest of your bracket, and we always appreciate it, brother.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. Mike Uva with Watch Fox right now, 67-57. Oregon with the 10-point lead on Iowa. About 14 minutes to go in the second half of that one. So we'll keep you updated as it goes along. All right. Want to remind you about our friends at Wando Power Equipment. It is Power Hour, guaranteed power by Wando Power Equipment, wandopower.com. And coming up on Friday and Saturday this week, if you're going to be in the Low Country, make sure you check them out over on Daniel Island. It's the annual Wando Power Open House. Now, here's the kicker in all this. If you know anything about power equipment, you know that you can't get Hustler commercial mowers for 20% off ever. But you can by dropping in either Friday or Saturday to Wando Power Equipment on Daniel Island. Again, head to wandopower.com. That is the big deal. They have a bunch of deals that will be going on, but that's the kicker right now. Inventory will get low. It sells out. It has every year since they've done this. So make sure you get over there early, starting at 8 a.m. both days. Tell my friends Polk and Harrison, the Price family, whom I've known for well over 20 years, we said hello. You can rent something if you need to rent. Whether it's an aerator, it's that time of the year. I need to do that, as a matter of fact. A stump grinder, maybe you've got an old tree that you've cut down and need to get rid of that stump because it's ugly, like in Darren's front yard or whatever else it may be. It's Wando Power Equipment. And, of course, they provide our guaranteed power for Power Hour right here on the JB and Goldwater show. All right, we got to hit a quick timeout. When we return, we'll dabble in some Deshaun Watson. We do have some football news to touch on. Keep you updated on hoops. And how about the discrepancies this weekend in the men's and women's tournament? That caught fire as things were getting going. I'll tell you what I think about it, if you care to hear what I think about it. And I'm sure Darren will tell you what he thinks about it as well. So hang tight. The JB and Goldwater show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. We'll be right back.
Peace and love at Stokes Speed Dub.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. Whatever you got planned this week, cancel it. 72 new Volkswagens will be sold in the next 72 hours at whatever price it takes. I repeat, 72 new Volkswagens will be sold in the next 72 hours. To the first 72 car buyers interested in saving up to $6,000 on a new Volkswagen for 3 days only. Every new Volkswagen and pre-owned vehicle at our bottom line price. Direct to the public, regardless of profit. Qualified purchases with interest-free financing for 60 months, and all trade-ins will be accepted. Interested parties should arrive early for best selection. You will not find a lower price anywhere in the country. 72-hour Volkswagen clearance, savings up to $6,000, 3 days only at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes Speed Dub.
$16.66 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with 0 down plus tax. Tag includes $4.99.50 administration fee subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at McFadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about McFadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
Guys, spring is finally in the air. You know what that means? Basketball in its home stretch. March Madness promotion at Dog and Ducks 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. From now until the end of the tournament, $5 Sweetwater pints. That's right. Every Sweetwater, just $5 at Dog and Duck, Park West, Bell Hall, and their Clements Ferry location. Plus, baseball spring training, college baseball, spring football. It's all available at Dog and Duck's 3 locations in Mount Pleasant.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and online.
Your love lifting me higher than I
All right, 145, final segment, Monday afternoon here on the JB and Goldwater Show, protected by McFadden Pest Control. It's time. It's time. We've been telling you for 4 months, 5 months around here. Here they come, the critters with the spring. It is time to make sure you've got signed up for McFadden Pest Control's quarterly pest service. Make sure your home is protected from termites. And guess what, boys and girls? Here come the skeeters. Make sure you've got McFadden Pest Control treating your yard as well. Their mosquito control is second to none. They also help, believe it or not, with the no-see-ums. And I know that all of you are already tired of those little guys nipping at you every time you're outside. So McFaddenPestControl.com, they've been in business for over 40 years. By the way, he's honest. Mike Uva is honest. He did text me, and I will tell you, yeah, even if you're not a Carolina fan, actually, this is going to be a very impressive conversation.
Yeah, what's impressive, and I liked it. I saw a not a snapshot. I guess I think he's videoing them all. I don't know if he's got the YouTube page up or if it's just the podcast, but I did see what he was talking about. How they're like in a conference room, they're around a table, which is important, and it does help tremendously. So whatever this guest list next week, next podcast looks like. The fact that he was able to get everyone together, even if one of them was on Zoom or whatever, at least being able to see people, the conversation is drastically different than if you're just talking on the phone or something like that.
Oh, it's this is something. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not gonna blow the roof off like I said. I was kidding. This is something. I do want to make sure that before we say another word, we pass on our condolences to Charleston Southern University and Joe Bradshaw's family, freshman wide receiver who passed away over the weekend. Originally from Florida. No really news as to exactly what happened, but he has passed away, I think, at 19 years old. And I saw that when I was up in the mountains this weekend. And I can't stand seeing things like that. So our condolences to Joe Bradshaw, his family, and of course to Charleston Southern football. Terrible loss for them. All right, 843-321-8893 is our phone number. It is also our text line. You can send us a message if you'd like to pop in before the end of the program. Oregon pulling away here, at least temporarily, but they look to have it in control. 12 minutes to go, an 18-point lead on second seeded, Iowa 75-57 on CBS. Coming up in a little less than an hour, 8th seeded Oklahoma and top seeded Gonzaga on CBS out there in the West region as well. So looking forward to that. Mac Brown extended through 2025 at North Carolina. That provides a little bit more stability in that program. They continue to recruit quite well, so not totally unexpected. But congratulations to him. Did see today an addendum in the contract of Duggar Balcom at the Citadel. So he's got another year tacked on downtown. Nice year for the Dogs, as a matter of fact. Maybe things headed in the right direction. And so Duggar Balcom will continue to be the head basketball coach of the Citadel Bulldogs. There are some Sweet 16 tip-offs already in place. Oregon State and Loyola, 2:40 Eastern, coming up this weekend on CBS, 5:15 Saturday tips. Villanova and Baylor on CBS. On TBS at 7:25 that night. Oral Roberts and Arkansas, and Syracuse and Houston at 9:55 on TBS. I want to make sure we pass those along as well. Also, up to, Darren, 10 civil lawsuits now filed against Deshaun Watson in Houston. And this is something we didn't get a lot to last week, but we're at 10 civil suits. And Deshaun continues to adamantly deny this. What do you think about all this?
I think that the first time I heard it, I was quickly dismissive of it because of how it came out in the media and Deshaun's immediate reaction to it. And it was a one-off, and it was, yeah, why should I pay much attention to this? But now as it grew, it went to 3, then it went to 4. I believe today the attorney representing the massage therapists is presenting stuff to potentially move this from a civil lawsuit into a criminal type of case. And I think so. We'll learn more about that. I think it is getting ugly for Deshaun Watson. And I think where there's smoke, there is generally fire. And if this is starting to pile up like this, I'm not jumping to conclusions yet, but I expect worse news before we hear better news about this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's getting ugly quick. And I'll phrase it this way. If this was a coach in the NFL, and again, none of this has necessarily been proven that I know of, but if this was a coach, if this was an executive, they'd have been fired by now.
Yeah.
This is a player who's still under contract, and so take that what you will with it. But I'm with you. I think when I first saw it, I thought, I don't know, something feels off, but it doesn't feel off anymore. And by the way, for the Clemson fans, this is not a Clemson Carolina thing. This is a
no, God, no.
I mean, this
not
is,
at all. I mean,
there's nothing to do with that. I don't care who it is. So.
And yet, despite it, there are still rumors popping up about who is trading for Deshaun Watson, who wants to trade for Deshaun Watson, and the Eagles are ready to give up everything to go get Deshaun Watson. The Panther rumors, to their credit, that's cooled significantly. Joe Person in The Athletic, who covers the Panthers, had an article out last week who said it was the Panthers' A, B, and C priority to go get Deshaun Watson. But there's been very little coming from the Carolina camp since these allegations began to surface.
Well, we'll keep our eyes on that news this afternoon and see if that adds or what it adds to this conversation. All right. As we go back to the start of the weekend, the discrepancies we began to see, I think it actually started with a couple of social media posts. The one most prominent from the young lady at Oregon showing their weight room, which was putrid. It wasn't a weight room. Actually, it was a stack of free weights is all it was. And then obviously, Darren, as things do, they certain I don't mean certain anybody in particular, but people took this and it blew up. I actually don't look at this as a men's versus women's at all. I look at this as, what the hell is the NCAA doing? Like, this is your tournament. I don't care that it's women's basketball. I could care less if it was women's wrestling or if it was croquet or cricket, or it doesn't matter. Like, this is your tournament. Wouldn't you want to put your best foot forward, period, the end? Like, no matter what sport, what gender, what sex was out there, like, of all the things that you continue to screw up over the years, the one thing you've always hung your hat on, right, is these. Like, we put on the greatest tournaments, which generally is true. And I'm like, what? The first thing that came to my mind had nothing. I didn't even know what the men's looked like. I had no idea. I just saw the women's side of it. And I was like, what? That looks like a little league travel tournament. Like, what were you even thinking? Who dropped the ball?
But here's the thing. This is where it is a difference between men and women. Like, they wouldn't have dropped the ball for the men. They wouldn't have made that mistake on the men's side, but they did on the women's side. And it wasn't so much of just an oversight. I mean, they've got everything laid out in a handbook here, and it wasn't done correctly. There was a stipulation, I believe, that once you get to the Sweet 16, there is additional stuff there. It makes absolutely no sense, and they made a massive mistake, and the players were correct in calling out the NCAA for that mistake. The NCAA has done its best to improve that facility, which it is. It's improved. It is nothing like what the men have, but it is improved. There's a little bit more in there now. And yeah, it's disappointing. There's no question about it. It was eye-opening and disappointing. And with luck, you don't see something like this happen again with the NCAA. But yeah, they tend to trip over themselves every now and then.
Yeah, that was yeah, you put it nicely there with a trip. I think they just fell over flat on their faces. I mean, that's just like again, I'm trying not to divide the conversation. I'm talking just specifically, and I agree with what you're saying. Because if it was the men's side, it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Period. The end. It just wouldn't have. Like, why would you not have that much care, concern, whatever it is, whatever word term you want to use for everything you're doing? Like, especially now of all times, everything is under a microscope. We all know what's coming. Name, image, and likeness, and maybe the NCAA isn't even around anymore in 5 or 10 years. I don't know. Like, you would think that you would do everything in your power to not do it right, Darren, to do it the best you've ever done it. Like, forget about doing it right. Let's make sure that everybody understands that you can't do this without us. We are the only ones who can do this. We're going to not put our best foot forward. We're going to put everybody's entire everybody's going to wear a size 20 shoe. We're putting those feet forward. Like, let's make a statement how great we are. And I saw some of those photos, and like, I personally was not offended. I was offended for the players and the teams. Yeah. I was like, they worked their rear ends off, and you thought that putting one stack of free weights there was like good? You thought that dried up meatloaf was a good meal? And then you said, well, it was the hotels who are doing this. And I don't care what hotel is around there. I would have been ordering from the finest steakhouse in town. So the reporters who eat it, by the way, are saying, oh my gosh, they ordered Johnson's Steakhouse. It must have been $100 for each of these T-bones. The NCAA is the greatest thing since sliced bread. That to me, from a business standpoint, was the most baffling of all this.
Yeah. Was I personally offended? No. But was it a complete lack of oversight? And that's not even the way to put it. Was it a massive mistake? Yeah.
Failure.
It's a failure. And because of that, it is a men versus women thing, because it wouldn't have happened on the men's side. There's zero chance that would have happened on the men's side. And that's where the women have absolutely every right to come out and say what they're doing. And, there was a social media thread, and probably many of them that I didn't see, that is saying, well, women get this, that, and the other thing in sports and in college sports. And they do. Of course they do. So do the men. But when you're coming down to something like this, it's inexcusable. You've got your best athletes on their biggest stage, and you're not giving them what they need to be competitive. It's ridiculous.
This is your, at the end of every men's tournament, that song, One Shining Moment. The NCAA, this is theirs every year.
Supposed to be.
And they just totally failed. And again, I thought if you and I said today, we're putting on a tournament tomorrow, and it was going to be a cornhole tournament, with every resource we had available, we would make it the greatest thing in the ever, regardless of who's in it, right? Yep. It doesn't matter. I don't care if it's for kids, adults, males, females. None of that matters.
It's ours. You're doing.
That's ours. Like, we're going to make this the best thing in the world. I mean, that was, that was just wow. It's putrid.
Yeah, it was. It was surprising, too. I mean, as many things as the NCAA has gotten wrong, even that was surprising to see.
Yeah. And you talk about resources. They have every resource in the world, and they failed. So,
and they got them all in one bubble. It's not like it was that complicated to spread all these resources out. You put it right there. They're all there.
Okay. Well, here's the good news. They acted as quickly as they could. They seemed to have rectified as much as they could. The one thing that caught me off guard was, well, we were going to do it when it got to the Sweet 16. Oh, well, you talking about the other 48 don't matter?
Right.
Come on.
Like, why?
Come on. All right, it is National Goof Off Day.
Done.
Congratulations to you.
Day.
It is also National West Virginia Day. So anybody in the Mountaineer State, tip your cap to them and tell them to enjoy their moonshine. All right, it is all but over here real quickly in the SoCon this weekend. Chattanooga beat Furman. East Tennessee State beat the Citadel. Citadel just can't get any breaks in football. 0-8. VMI over Furman. They can. They're still undefeated. Mercer did beat Western Carolina. By the way, the Citadel is going to be back on the field coming up this weekend at home, hosting Samford at 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Thanks to Wes Mitchell and Mike Uva and to Darren Goldwater. Good luck to all of your brackets.
Yes.
84 to 66 with 6 minutes in the second half of that one right now between Oregon and Iowa. For Darren, I'm Jamie. I hope you all have a marvelous Monday afternoon. The JB and Goldwater show turns tomorrow at noon. Mike Morgan, Gene Sapikoff, and Tim Doyle join us. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll see you tomorrow at noon right here on the JB and Goldwater show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.